Harry's wife. Why is she not telling him he's being a fool? Latterly, Harry's been a bit of a cock. His slating of his family hasn't endeared him to anybody. And it got worse with regard to the Shitflix docu-series, and then even worse with the disclosures that came out of Spare. Then there is his courtroom activity also. This has caused many people to look at him and think, once liked him, now see him as an entitled brat who has done his family a complete disservice. There are some that think that this is his true personality coming out. There are others that recognise that it is as a consequence of the manipulations that he's been subjected to, the brainwashing that he has been put through by his wife, harnessing his narcissistic traits and utilising his own paranoias. But Dan Wooten of the Daily Mail asks, why is Harry's wife not telling Prince Harry he's making a fool of himself? Numerous people have posed the same question. They think to themselves, it's clear he's being a right tit. He's making a complete Horlicks of it all. Why isn't she telling him this if she cares about him? Well, of course, the fact is, she's not telling him because she doesn't actually care about him. Wooten writes, often a partner's most important role is that gentle whisper into the ear, or sometimes a knowing glare, gentle punch in the ribs, or harshly honest private conversation insisting, just stop now. Since the beginning of the year, Prince Harry has entered self-destruct mode. Having thrown virtually every blood relative under the bus and cut himself off from most close friends from his pre-Harry's wife era, it would seem the only person in the world who can save him from himself is his wife. But barring their seriously misjudged joint statement on the near-catastrophic New York car chase that wasn't, the Duchess of Sussex has chosen to completely withdraw from her husband's public business. And the missteps of his kamikaze mission are spiralling out of control, destroying what little credibility the Sussexes had left. The horrific consequences of his autobiography, Spare, continue to stack up, from being shamed for revealing private conversations with the late Queen to having his American citizenship questioned in a US court, with the threat of deportation even a possibility because of the revelations of extensive illegal drug use. And now the indignity of having to admit under oath in court that he has no evidence of phone hacking by Mirror Group newspapers, despite going through the palaver of becoming the first senior royal to give evidence in 130 years, claiming just that. This was all so painfully inevitable. What has been needed more than ever was the woman who claims she puts Harry's best interests first to step in. Harry's wife could have said, none of this is worth the toll it's taking on our lives. You don't have the proof to win this court case, you look stupid. It's damaging our business interests and making it almost impossible to create the happy Californian utopia we envisaged. Instead, she left him in the hands of a ghostwriter who has helped him destroy every family relationship Harry had left. I would go further than that. She contributed to the nonsense, as it was clear that she had involvement in that way. Also, he's involved with the hacked-off cabal, a rabid group of the rich and powerful mixed in with attention-seeking reform phone hackers who have been on a decade-long mission to bring down the British press. The consequences of all of this have been, just as King Charles warned, a suicide mission in terms of credibility. Harry's 2 days in the witness box were a mortifying spectacle as the dim Duke became aware, with the world watching, that the vast majority of articles he had been assured just must have come from phone hacking were actually already in the public domain. The victimhood woe-is-me narrative that Harry believes can save him from any tricky question when challenged by woke pals like Oprah Winfrey and Tom Bradby did not work when presented with actual facts by the Mirror's sharp KC, Andrew Green. And while no one belittles the pain of losing his mother in front of the world as a youngster, we're all just exhausted by now of a man born with every imaginable privilege in the world constantly moaning about his lot in life. It's hard to pick the most ludicrous moment of Harry's evidence, but I think for me, it's his claim that the only reason he became a prolific drug user and playboy prince was because the media reported on his activities. He whinged, I ended up feeling as though I was playing up to a lot of the headlines and stereotypes they wanted to pin on me, mainly because I thought that, if they are printing this rubbish about me and people were believing it, I may as well do the crime. Oh, come on. Surely even his woke mates aren't swallowing that baloney. In fact, I think the inclusion of that statement alone in his witness statement proves Harry does not have the right people looking after his best interests. Wooten states that he fears, in Harry's wife's mind, the worse things get for Harry, the better position she becomes to take the lead in their relationship. What else explains his solo meltdown this year? If Harry's wife were a responsible wife, not attempting to lean into Harry's extreme, if at times understandable paranoias, she would have spoken to him about the reality of the media. After all, just like Harry's mother, Diana, before Harry's wife entered the royal family, she was one of the many celebrities who used journalists and photographers on a regular basis to promote her image, meeting with showbiz columnists to ask them to print stories about her private life, and arranging paparazzi to be available to shoot her when arriving at certain locations. But Harry should also work harder to protect his marriage, which has come under increasing pressure in recent months. There's nothing positive to be gained from focusing so incessantly on a romantic relationship that ended over a decade ago. Harry's ex, Chelsea Davy, has moved on. She lives a happy life out of the public eye with a devoted husband, gorgeous child, and successful businesses. But for Harry, the woman who his friends considered to be the love of his life will always be the one who got away. And because Harry believes he lives a blameless existence, it will never be his own immature behaviour, including those visits to strip clubs, that precipitated the split, but rather, of course, the media coverage Chelsea had to endure. So as a result, Chelsea was named in his witness statement 118 times, while Harry's wife was mentioned just 5 times. Now, of course, Harry would say that's because the Mirror's apparent bad deeds were going on during his relationship with Chelsea, not Harry's wife. But isn't that the point about why it's time to move on now? This is all ancient stuff. There is a real toxicity in Harry's constant desire to rewrite history and right wrongs that often didn't exist in the first place that might make Harry's wife reluctant to step in. But someone has to now. Because Harry is wallowing in victimhood and unhappiness in an aimless battle that will end up helping no one, certainly not himself. Harry's wife might think Harry's campaigning against a free press will burnish her political ambitions and keep him busy, but I think the consequences will end up being far more destructive to him as a person and their marriage. Not to mention the awful position in which it continues to put King Charles and Prince William, who's increasingly encouraging his father to take a harder line against Harry, perhaps finally stripping him of his formal titles. For the sake of Harry's health and happiness, Harry's wife needs to stage an intervention, writes Wooten, and assist her husband in focusing his energies on a positive cause. Thus, that's the article. But the actual answer is, she's not going to. She's not telling him he's being a fool, because it's far easier for her, because he's being devalued, to let him fuck up and then turn around and say to him, look what you've done, Harry. You've caused the problem. Look what you've said, Harry, and how you've caused our popularity to plunge. It's not me, it's you. We were riding high, and now look what's happened, the way that people are treating us. It's all your fault. In short, Harry's wife isn't telling him he's being a fool because it ensures that she is able to distance herself from him, cut him adrift, and then blame him for all of the problems that she faces. She is able to assert control over him by not being supportive, and it's easy for her to not support him because she has no emotional empathy for him. It makes more sense for her to let him foul up and then blame him than to actually stand by his side and deal with all of the flack. If she stands by his side and supports him, then he, as an extension of her, causes these threats to control, which she then has to deal with. Her narcissism doesn't want that gig. She will support him when there's something good going on, because she'll acquire it for herself by character trait acquisition. She will take the plaudits. She will take the credit. But when things are going wrong, This is when the absence of emotional empathy comes to the fore, and Harry is left on his own. There is no support. She will use his missteps against him. She will call him a fool and blame him for all of the problems that they're enduring, whether that's relevant or not. And thus, the reason she is not telling him he's being a fool is because it suits her not to do so, and nor will there be any intervention either, because as he's being devalued, her lack of support is part of that sustained devaluation. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.